Hi, this is Jim Peters with Peters Principles, and as you know, you never know who you're going to have on Peters Principles. And tonight I'm pleased to say we have Robert Gignac. Robert's running for City Council, right?
That's right. Okay,
and is currently on the school committee, and has had a relatively illustrious career on the school committee. So he knows budgets. The first thing I'd like to talk to you about is the opioid crisis.
Sure.
It seems like it's out of our reach, and that I mean it's cross country.
It is.
It's an across country problem, and we're dealing with it as best we can. But what is your take on the opioid crisis, and how would you address it?
Sure. So I've been trying to address the opioid epidemic for a number of years. My first term, my approach was to provide more education in the schools, and so we launched an opiate abuse prevention and awareness program starting in elementary through high school, and we've seen some pretty good success with that. Since time has gone on and the epidemic has gotten worse and worse, the city's established a task force, and we've been able to bring all the partners together. I think that model has been working. Just last week, Senator Ed Markey was in Lowell, and he had invited me to meet with him to talk about some of the work I do at Megan's House Foundation. I'm the chairman of the board of that organization. And after we met, we had a full task force meeting, which he attended, which was put on by the district attorney and Senator Donahue. And basically what the Senator Markey told us is what we're doing in Lowell and the greater Lowell area is working. And our numbers are lower than they have been in the past, and it's a model he's going to bring to Washington. And a lot of that has to do with the great partnerships we have here in Lowell, specifically with the school system, the police department, the fire department, the health department, as well as the hospitals, the community college, the university, and really coming together and working with the nonprofits to address the problem. But I think it's something that we're going to be dealing with for a very long time.
Did you? Can you explain a little bit about Narcan to me, because that's
Sure.
I hear about it all the time, but I don't really know what it does and what it is.
Sure. So it's a drug that is used when there's an overdose, a non-fatal overdose, and when first responders arrive to a scene and they see somebody who appears to have overdosed, it's a nasal spray, and they shoot up the nasal spray into the victim, and the victim will immediately wake up from their overdose and be alert and can actually function. Then they're immediately, most of the time, transported to a hospital. And what the city has done is equipped the EMS, EMTs with Narcan, as well as the police and fire. But we also have Narcan at the schools in case of the worst possible scenario of a student or a staff member overdosing.
So that's a concern?
It's a concern.
Okay. Did you go to the folk festival?
I did, yeah.
How was it?
It was great. I think it was one of the best we've had in a while. I think we can owe a lot of that to the weather, but it was very lively.
The weather was good.
Yeah, it was a very lively weekend, and I think it portrayed the city very well.
So anything that stands out? Was Boarding House Park better than usual, or?
I think the attendance was great.
Was it?
And it looked like the attendance was great across the festival. Sometimes you see more concentrated areas, but from what I've seen, what I saw personally in photos, it looked like the entire downtown was packed. So that's a good thing. That is
a good thing. I'm pleased that it was as packed as it was, and
yeah.
it reflects well on the city. I'm a little worried about the tax rate, especially in light of the fact that the state is going to pay less for the high school than they had initially said they would, percentage-wise. And what are we going to do about taxes? We just increased taxes by 5% across the city. and none of that went to the school department, as you know. And what do we do about taxes to keep them under control? Because to be perfectly honest with you, it's what I hear a lot about from older people that I run into.
Yeah. Well, you know, the costs continue to go up, which is why the city is forced to raise taxes, because it costs more money to operate city government than it ever has in the past. And what I think I'm pretty good at is finding ways to make cuts and to be more efficient. And that's something I've tried to do in my time on the school committee, is looking at areas where we can consolidate or bring in better practices to have more efficient operations, which can save us some monies. And I think the city has plenty of room to do that as well. But we also need to work on bringing in some new businesses and increasing the tax base, primarily the commercial tax base, because we have some great people here, some great businesses that are currently here that we want to foster and continue to grow, but we also want to bring in some more companies to call Lowell home. And I think I'd be a great advocate for the city of Lowell and bringing new business here.
Is anybody effectively pursuing General Electric as an ancillary, as having an ancillary piece of their business in town?
Not that I know of. No, not that I know of. But one of the things I'm doing on the campaign trail is I'm going to be holding a business leaders and nonprofit leaders roundtable next month, which is going to be hosted by two very well-known business people, and I'll be announcing that later on in this month. But at that event, that venue, I'll be talking more about economic development, the role of businesses in the community, as well as the role of nonprofits, and how we can all work together to make the city a better place.
Okay. I think that issue is probably the primary issue that you hear of now. People are a little nervous about the new high school. They're a little nervous about the I can't remember what they call it. The structural changes to bridges and things like that.
Sure.
They're just nervous about taxes in general. And I remember one councilor stating that, look, at this high school is important, but we have to have a police department made after that, redone after that, and we have to have a fire department redone after that, and that's going to cost some money.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good point.
It is a good point. I think a part of the reason why we're in the position of having to replace a lot of our buildings is because of the lack of maintenance. And I think the city just doesn't have enough resources to maintain our buildings in the appropriate manner where they're gonna last and they're gonna survive. And the high school is a perfect example, as well as the police and the fire station downtown. If they were properly maintained, then we get a little more life out of them. But we're at the point now where they're falling apart. And it's not just those three buildings. We have dozens of schools across the city that have some serious facility issues. So putting together a comprehensive maintenance plan is something that I think is long overdue.
Okay. The election, how does it look to you? I mean,
it's an exciting election.
There are more people running than have run in a long time.
Yeah, and I think it shows you how involved folks are in city government. I think I hadn't seen that in the past two elections I've been involved in. And it's exciting to see. More people are asking questions, more people are going to events, more people are getting involved, and I think that's a good thing. And some people are intimidated by that because you never know where your base lies as a candidate, but I will tell you that I think it's going to be an exciting election, and I'm looking forward to it. I think the preliminary is coming up pretty quickly, and then we have the general in November, so it goes by fast, but apparently we have lots of people engaged and excited about it, so I think it's going to be a good race.
Okay. I was pleased with the news that the university was going to pay partially for, I'm not sure what they're paying for, because they don't technically have to pay, period, but
Yeah.
what was that story? What was that about?
So the city and the university came together and signed a master agreement just last week, and I was fortunate enough to attend that ceremony. And so what the city and university did is really compile a document that outlines the services that the university uses, that the city provides, and vice versa, and calculate some sort of funding mechanism to provide relief to the city. And I think it's the first public higher ed institution that has made such an agreement in Massachusetts. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and I can see other communities following.
Marty Meehan was kind of against that when he was here. Has he changed his mind, or did most of this happen with Jackie Maloney?
I think the Chancellor Maloney really took the lead, but I'm sure she wouldn't have signed her name on a document that the president of the university would oppose to.
Right.
But she did sign it, and as did the city manager. And I think it was a great day for the city as a whole to move on from some of the turmoil in the relationship in the years past.
There was some turmoil, wasn't there? Yeah. Okay. Cameras at city parks. Are you for or against them, and why?
For use of police?
Police for. Yeah, I'd say basically for the police.
Yeah, I would support that. I think we have a number of great parks in the city that oftentimes fall victim to vandalism or people that shouldn't be hanging out, after dark. And I think it's a good tool to be able to track down folks that are destroying property or doing something that isn't the best for that neighborhood.
So these cameras would be able to pick up nighttime images?
I would assume so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It seems like a good question.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would hope so.
So
that would seem to me to be the best time to record, would be at night when not everybody's around and it's not so visible.
Okay. The National Night Out. I didn't get to see that one.
Yeah.
What was that about, and were you there?
I was. It was a great. It's a great turnout. I was fortunate to attend the night out in the Acre, and at St. Louis and Centerville, and it's brought on by the neighborhood groups and some local organizations to really put on a night out for the families in the community to get together. And just have a good time, a safe place for kids to enjoy their summer and for parents to get together and learn about different organizations in a relaxed environment, but also to, shake a police officer's hand, look inside a fire truck. There was a police canine show at the Acre, and they showed what the canine does when there's a criminal pursuit, as well as in Centerville they had all sorts of bouncy houses and ice cream and you name it, and the kids had a blast, and I think it was just a great night for the city. And I know they had the same thing at the Morey School up in the Highlands with a phenomenal turnout. I think they had a dunk tank up there, and they dunked.
I think they did, yeah.
They dunked, I believe, Joe Hungler from the Boys and Girls Club. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a great night, and all around I heard very positive things, and a lot of that had to do with the relationships between the neighborhood organizations and the Lowell Police Department.
Okay. I didn't want to. Okay. A rumor existed that I heard about 3 weeks ago that they were trying to downsize the LHA. Is there anything that you know about in that category?
Not that I know of.
No. Okay, but apparently they were thinking of selling some property from the LHA to raise some funds or something. So I had a person who was worked up about that, and I just wanted to ask if you knew anything about it.
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
Okay. Is the DPW getting their own site at any time in the near future? Or?
The DPW currently is located on Middlesex Street.
Right, it's at the old Jim Witt Pontiac.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in the works to relocate them at this time.
Okay, I thought that a good place to relocate them would be where the old dump used to be. That has a couple of buildings on it, and they seem to be holding up pretty well. So,
Oh, sure, yeah.
so I just thought that would be a good site. Now, what's the status on the low bridges, the 11 or so NL bridges that we took over, and we have to finance and
Yeah.
do everything to?
Yeah, so we're still a bit of ways from any construction or reconfiguring of those bridges. I believe it's going to be another almost a year and a half, 2 years before we see any real improvements. But you could see some minor improvements across the city as it relates in infrastructure. And I say minor; they seem very major if you drive on them daily. But some repaving and some sidewalk work being done. But as far as the bridges goes, I think we're a little bit of ways before we see any actual work being done on them.
Which bridges are the most important, or the most deteriorated?
They're all in very
Pretty
poor
bad shape, yeah.
They're all in pretty poor shape.
Okay.
And it comes to the point where somebody has to come in and shut it down and not allow school buses on it, and that's when things get a little scary. When we have to reroute the school buses and the university's buses, and that's a big part of the reason why they jumped on board to assist us with funding the project, was because they were limiting their abilities to transport students and the like.
What, as for the Francis Gatehouse Bridge, when will that be done? This has been undergoing repairs for about 6 years now.
It has, yeah. I'm not sure when that's going to be completed. I think what we can look at is some of the new innovative ways that the state is repairing and replacing bridges. I think they have across the state they've tried a new process where they're able to replace a bridge in about 2 weeks, and it's the bridge is basically built off site, and they come in and they slowly replace piece by piece, and it seems to be a more effective and efficient way rather than closing down a lane for a month and slowly working their way at it. So I'd be interested to see if Lowell actually uses that model to repair its bridges.
Now, where did you learn about that model? Because this is the first I've heard of it.
I've heard about it because I commute to Cambridge every day.
Oh, okay.
And the past 2 weeks has been heavy on my traffic because people are avoiding the Mass Pike,
Right.
Because they were replacing one of those bridges
Right.
in that manner. And I believe it's about done now. So it's.
I heard they have about 2 days left or something like that.
Right, but it went by pretty quickly.
Yeah. There were 2 city councilors on the vote for the Cawley vote. My brother-in-law once said of Bill Clinton that he was going to give him a panda bear. And a panda bear is not a panda bear, it was a pander bear. They were pandering, he said, to the middle class. So there were 2 city councilors on that vote that I thought should get panda bears, but I won't tell you who they were. What's the progress on Perkins Loft and what's the progress on the Perkins Loft?
So it's Perkins Loft, as you know, is now owned by the university. I think within the next few weeks they're going to be moving in students. And originally it was slated for upperclassmen and international students, and I think the university just informed the city that although it's mostly going to be upperclassmen with international students, there will be a limited amount of freshmen and sophomores in some of those facilities.
Okay. This is the one that Sal Bilpoli is building, the Thorndike?
No, so Perkins is the one by the spinners.
But is this the one that was taken over by the
university.
university, and Sal Napoli said, I'll build
Yeah. He was going to build some housing for
some
them.
housing for them?
Yeah,
Right.
but I think the Thorndike building isn't going to be ready
Okay.
in time for that switch, so most of those folks have found housing elsewhere.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I'd like to see, regardless of whether the high school goes to Collier or the high school goes downtown, the one thing I'd like to see is that it's still called Lowell High School. Do you agree with that? Or?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, because Lowell High School's history is incredibly in-depth.
It is.
And I've done a lot of research on it, and it just seems to me that we should keep the name.
Yeah.
So, John McDonough has stated that we should name it after Mr. Demoulas, but the Demoulas High School. But I would just as soon name it after Lowell High School.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask this question: do city councilors and school committeemen still go to the Worthen after meetings, or?
You know, only serving on the school committee, I can tell you that I haven't gone. I've maybe gone to the Worthen after a school committee meeting maybe once.
Well, okay.
I will say, oftentimes you might see a few of us at Cobblestones after a meeting, if it's a rather feisty meeting.
Okay.
We might go over there to cool down. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What is your stand on neighborhood groups?
Neighborhood groups, I think, are very important in the city's function, and specifically the public safety of our neighborhoods. I think neighborhood groups are a great avenue for folks to really get involved and to voice their concerns with the police department and various city agencies. And one of the things that we do here in Lowell that some of the other communities don't, which surprises me, is that all of our neighborhood groups meetings, we have a representative from the police department and a representative from City Hall, mm-hmm. who can either address concerns immediately or go back to the office, find the answer, and report back to the neighborhood group rather quickly. And I think it's an effective way of communicating with city government, as well as having productive conversations with law enforcement. I think neighborhood groups have a great role in the city's success. Okay.
Well, we've run out of time.
Sure.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Jim.
And we'll see you before the preliminary election.
That's right. Great.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is Jim Peters. You've been watching Peters Principles, and we've been here with Robert Gignac, who is running for City Council. Thanks, Robert.